If you think the performance on the Pixel 10 is terrible, especially for intensive stuff like heavy gaming for example, think again. I've actually been using the Pixel 10 Pro XL for weeks now, doing a lot of those heavy things like playing Call of Duty Mobile at max settings, and even video editing large projects at 4K resolution, and for the most part, it's handled everything just fine. Has that always been the case with previous Pixel models? No. It's actually funny too, because the other day I saw this meme on Twitter or X that just totally nailed my whole history with Google Pixels. You know the deal, the software is amazing, but the processor is crap. And honestly, for the longest time, it did feel that way. It just never really felt as powerful as the Snapdragons or Exynos chipsets in other phones. But now, I'm finally starting to see the tables turn after switching to the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Now sure, on a benchmark test, the results still say that the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor on something like the Galaxy S25 Ultra is better than the Tensor G5 on the Pixel 10, but in real-world usage, the performance for me on the Pixel has been really incredible. Way better than its predecessor, and even slightly smoother, and in some cases just as fast as some of the other top-of-the-line flagships out there. For example, when comparing it to the Galaxy S25 Ultra, opening, closing, or switching between apps was just as fast, and sometimes even faster. The same goes for AI features. It was able to generate content way more quickly, and it felt a lot more responsive. Even basic stuff, like the animation when you unlock the phone, where it transitions from the always-on display to the lock screen and then the home screen, that was really fluid. I know these sound like basic things that should feel fluid on every phone nowadays, but you'd be surprised. Even on some of the best flagships that carry the latest chipsets, I do sometimes notice little jolts or stutters in those everyday interactions. And it's because having a really heavy software that's filled with tons of bells and whistles can sometimes be a little too much to handle for even the best processor on the market. And look, I'm not saying that those other flagship phones are slow by any means. In fact, they're even faster than the Pixel 10 in certain aspects. But software optimization definitely goes a long way, and Google really fine-tuned their OS incredibly well. I honestly rarely ever experienced any lag on the Pixel software, if at all. Even with heavy gaming, like I said, Call of Duty Mobile at max settings, I didn't really notice any major stutters. Regular 10-player matches ran just as well as something even more powerful like a Galaxy S25 Ultra. It was only when I joined a much bigger map with 20 or more players that I finally started to see the phone have a few lag spikes here and there. But honestly, it wasn't bad at all, and it didn't really make the gameplay unplayable. The only thing I would really notice is that the phone would overheat a bit more easily. So unless you're a really serious gamer that wants no lag spikes, even on the biggest of maps, the performance on this phone should be more than fine in real-world use. Now as for the software, this is where the Pixel 10 shines the most, especially now with Android 16 and this new design language that it comes with, which Google calls Material 3 Expressive. Everything's got a fresh, more exciting look. You've got funkier shapes, rounder fonts, bigger buttons, and these really bold colored themes, especially in dark mode. But the best part for me is all the new little animations. Every single tap, swipe, or long press has these playful, bouncy effects that just make the whole interface feel alive. And to make it even better, the Pixel 10 even adds extra vibrations to those taps or swipes. Like when you're rearranging icons on your home screen, you can actually feel each grid spot that you move through. Or in the Recent Apps menu, you get a tiny vibration for every app that you swipe through, and when you close it all out, it plays those little vibration sequences so that way you know exactly how many apps that you swipe through. It's all these tiny little details that make the phone just feel so polished and really nice to use. Now with that said, there's still a good amount of stuff that needs improvement too, even things that they've had for years. For instance, scrolling screenshots on the Pixels is still really bad. There are so many apps where I want to take an expanded screenshot and it either turns out terrible or just doesn't really work at all. But then if I try the same thing on a Galaxy phone or a nothing phone even, it works perfectly fine. Even in Google's own apps like Gmail, it's still a mess. The edges get cropped weirdly, and sometimes it even cuts off part of the actual email so I can't even see what the words were. Again, not a problem on some other phones. There's also a Pixel exclusive feature called Quick Taps, which lets you launch certain actions by just double tapping the back of the phone. Well, that one on the Pixel 10 just wouldn't really work at all for me. I've also noticed some minor issues with the Pixel launcher. The Google Weather widget, for example, got a nice redesign, but when the temperature hits triple digits, the text can get cut off a bit. And of course, I'm still really annoyed that the at-a-glance widget at the top of the home screen still isn't removable. We've all been asking Google for years to let us remove that thing, but they just don't want to do it. But even with those nitpicks, the things that keep me coming back to the Pixels, besides them getting the latest software updates first, are all the clever exclusive features that Google packs into these phones. The Pixel 10 too is no exception. My new favorite thing is this one called Magic Queue. It basically gives you perfect suggestions right in your conversations or phone calls exactly when you need them, so you don't have to go hunting for them later on. For example, the other day I was going to an event with a friend and he asked me for the address. Instead of having to dig through my calendar to find the event, Magic Queue automatically suggested it right away so I could send it with one tap. So easy. The same thing happened when I was on a call with an airline to change my flight. It automatically pulled up my flight details from Gmail. It was great. Or even when I opened Amazon. When I went to the search, it suggested a couple products that maybe I'd like to search for because I'd taken a screenshot of those items a few days earlier. It's just these small, genuinely helpful actions that no other phone does, and it makes the Pixel just feel so much smarter than any other competition out there. Now, it's not perfect though. Sometimes it recommends completely wrong info. One time, a coworker asked me for a tracking number for a package that I sent him that he was expecting for that week, and Google just dug up some random old tracking numbers from my Gmail weeks ago and had me send them. And other times, when it should recommend something, it just doesn't. Like I was calling a friend up on their birthday, and it was also right there in their contact info, and Magic Queue didn't say anything about it. Or I was also calling up UPS support. It didn't bring any tracking numbers up too. So it definitely needs some work, but I love the idea. When it works, it's incredibly handy. And of course, you can't forget about the most popular new feature on the Pixel 10, Pixel Snap. It's Google's version of Apple's MagSafe. So it's basically Qi 2 wireless charging. It lets the phone charge wirelessly at up to 25 watts. Plus, it's got magnets inside so you can attach accessories. Now, I'm sure other phones will probably get this feature eventually, but right now the Pixel 10 is really the only big name Android phone out there that has it. And I love it. It's just so great to go into my office and just snap the phone onto a wireless charging stand on my desk so that it instantly shows me the time, date, and weather so I can just focus without any distractions. Now, Google has a Pixel Snap stand, but it's really basic and not that great and still really expensive. So instead, what I used is this one-tap wireless charging stand from Spigen. It comes with a fan built inside to keep the phone cool as it charges, and the head is rotatable too, so you can tilt it however you'd like. And even though the Pixel 10 has Pixel Snap, I still had to grab a case. I mean, I just never trust myself carrying this phone around naked, but I also wanted one that worked with the Pixel Snap, and there was no way I was going to spend $50 on Google's case. That's why I instead turned to these cases from Spigen, the sponsor of this video. All of their cases are around $20 or less, but still deliver a premium look and feel that don't sacrifice any quality, have a slim fit profile, are super protective, and most importantly, still support Pixel Snap. That's right, this year Spigen built what they call MagFit right into all their Pixel 10 cases, which means you get full Qi 2 charging and you can snap on all those MagSafe compatible accessories. Some of my favorite cases on the Pixel 10 has been their Nano Pop with its Google style two-tone colors, also this rugged armor one with that classic carbon fiber look, and my favorite is this Parallax Edition one. It has this insane 3D design on the back and it feels extra grippy with those groove lines on the side. And as I said, since all of these have MagFit, you can use these really cool accessories from Spigen, like their Nano Pop MagFit wallet, which holds up to 3 cards, their one-tap wireless charging phone stand, which even comes with cooling technology, or even their OMAG ring, which can turn the phone into a kickstand or lets you mount the phone onto any metal surface. They even make a great screen protector, the Easy Fit Alumina Core, which is extremely strong glass with reinforced weak points and enhanced screen clarity. It's even 10 times stronger than standard tempered glass. Thanks to the included alignment tray, it was also really easy to install. So if you're picking up a Pixel 10 and you want super slim, affordable protection with Pixel Snap support, definitely check out Spigen's products. I'll have their Amazon links right at the top of the description. Okay, circling back to my absolute favorite exclusive features on the Pixel, the ones that I use the most. In the camera, there are 2 new ones that I couldn't stop playing with. The first is Ask Photos. It uses Gemini to let you edit a photo just by describing what you want. Like if you want to remove bystanders in the background, just type that in, hit enter, and it's done. If you feel like the sky looks empty in a shot, tell it to add some clouds, and it'll do it. You can even get totally wild with it and have it create something really random and just drop it in the shot. It's honestly something that I've always wanted, just a quick way to edit something right then and there without needing to be a Photoshop expert. Plus, I feel like this feature isn't just handy for photo editing, it would also be great to have it into the system settings. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to find a setting, but I didn't know the exact name for it. If I could just type out, "help me customize my phone," or "help me improve the performance" into a search bar powered by Gemini, it would be a game changer. It would not only help me, but also a ton of less tech-savvy folks out there. Samsung's Galaxy S25 series actually does this, and it's incredibly helpful, even surfacing settings that I never even knew existed. Another awesome exclusive feature that I loved is Take a Message. So if you decline a call or accidentally miss one, the Pixel 10 will automatically take a message from that person to find out why they called. So it's basically like a voicemail replacement, but way better because it actually gives you a full transcription of the recording and then tells you what to do next. So if your doctor's office calls to remind you about an appointment, it'll make it super easy to create a calendar event right from there. It's just a really smart feature. Then there are the classic Pixel exclusive features that I immediately miss whenever I switch to another phone. I get legitimately jealous. I'm talking about features like the on-device Google Assistant voice typing in the Google keyboard. It's not the standard cloud-based voice typing version that every other Android gets. This one is way faster, more accurate, adds punctuation all by itself, and even lets you use voice commands to edit what you just wrote, like saying an emoji that you want to add, or saying clear to just erase a whole sentence. Then there's Now Playing, that little genius feature on the lock screen that automatically shows the name of whatever song is playing around me. And I also like quick phrases, which lets me do specific tasks, like stopping my alarm from ringing or answering a phone call just by saying voice commands instantly. And just when you thought it was done, then there are a bunch of other new features that I appreciated, even if I didn't really use them all. Call screen, for instance, has improved. I use it all the time. It's where Google Assistant answers unknown calls for you. And now with the Pixel 10, it integrates AI to come up with better responses. And for the most part, it does. But the automated replies are still pretty limited, and it still takes the AI a bit longer than I'd like for it to finally say something. I really wish Google would just let us type out our own custom responses right into the call screen mode. For now, you have to actually pick up the call and use live captions to do that. Then there's a really fun party trick. In the Recorder app, you can now turn your voice recordings into full songs. You just record yourself and then pick a musical style. From there, it'll try to create a song for you. But to be fair, the vocals don't always line up perfectly with the beat, but it's still a really cool feature to show off. And here's a big one. The Pixel 10 supports satellite voice and video calls on WhatsApp, perfect for when you're out of cellular range. Again, I didn't really use this feature because here in the States, we mostly still use regular text messaging, thanks to Apple, but it's still a huge step forward for those who use WhatsApp. There's also Voice Translate for phone calls, which translates a conversation in real time for both people on the line. It's a great idea, but honestly, it wasn't as smooth as I hoped it would be. I think Samsung's version handles this a bit better right now. I'm glad it's there though, and I'm sure it'll improve over time. I also enjoyed the writing tools on the keyboard. It uses AI to help proofread, rephrase, or just shorten your writing. It's not new. Samsung's had this feature for years, and it's not a killer feature that would make me want to buy the phone alone, but it's a nice little bonus to have. Oh, and there's a new journal app. I'll be honest, I never really used it because I don't really journal to begin with, but I do like how it guides you to create entries based on your photos, locations, and workouts. It's definitely not the most powerful journaling app out there too, but it's straightforward, which I like. Plus, it's a built-in option if you want to give it a shot. Now, another strong point on the Pixel 10s are the cameras. On the Pixel 10 Pro XL, the triple rear lenses on the back hasn't really changed. You still get a 50 megapixel main wide lens, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto with 5x optical zoom. And then on the front, you get an incredible 42 megapixel front-facing selfie camera. It's a Pixel, so you're going to get reliable shots with natural colors, balanced exposure, lots of detail, and wide dynamic range in whatever lighting you shoot in. Even if you switch lenses, the photos almost always come out looking great. And I was really excited to see that the Pixel 10 can finally push past 30x too, and zoom all the way up to 100x. Now the quality obviously drops a ton at that level, But Google's ProRes zoom feature, which uses AI to clean up some of those super zoomed in shots, is honestly some of the best work I've ever seen. It even looked better to me than the Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is basically the grandfather of long distance zooming. Selfies were also a real pleasure because it can now take even wider shots, and it still keeps amazing detail too. Video is solid too, with good stabilization and realistic colors from the main sensor. The one area though that I'd like to see Google step up is night sight. Don't get me wrong, low light shots still look great with accurate colors, minimal softening, and solid detail, but in really dark scenes, other flagships like Samsung, Oppo, and Vivo often edge it out with cleaner images and even finer detail. I mean, sure, sometimes the Pixel nails it better with more accurate colors and better lighting, but I've noticed that the Galaxy does a much better job of keeping night photos looking like, well, they were actually taken at night without over brightening everything. The truth is, Google's no longer the undisputed king of night photography. The competition has really caught up in a big way. Still, that's not to say that Google doesn't have a few tricks up its sleeves for the camera. The most useful new feature that really caught my eye is Camera Coach. I absolutely love this thing because it literally guides you on how to take a better shot. It gives you real-time tips right on the screen, like tilting the phone a certain way, stepping back for better framing, or even suggesting poses, which is great for me since I'm terrible at posing. It just helps you take better photos overall, and I love that. The only downside is that it's not entirely on device. It uses cloud processing to analyze what your camera's seeing, so if you're in an area with bad internet, the feature isn't very useful and sometimes won't even work. You'll just be standing there waiting for it to load, and eventually, you'll probably just get tired and just snap the photo anyway. Happened to me a few times. Another trick I love is Best Take. They had this feature on some of the previous models too. It basically just fixes group photos when someone blinks or looks away. On the Pixel 10 though, it got even better since it automatically analyzes over 150 frames and either picks or blends the best versions for each person individually, so everyone really looks great in the final shot. It works pretty well too. And of course, you can't forget about all the classic editing tools like Magic Eraser, Unblur, and Generative Edit. They're all still here, which are now easily even more accessible through Ask Photos. You won't even need to dig through the photo editing tools anymore unless you want full granular control. So yeah, the Pixel 10 may not have the absolute top of the line cameras anymore, but for most people, the results are more than enough, and honestly, the software makes taking and editing photos so much easier than on any other phone that I've used. As for the battery, the Pixel 10 Pro XL comes with a 5200 mAh battery, and honestly, it gave me above average results. It wasn't the absolute best battery life that I've ever had. My OnePlus 13, for example, easily lasted a few hours longer because it has more capacity. But with my usage, I was still consistently getting around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time. Now, just to give you an idea of what my phone usage looks like, my day usually includes like 1 to 2 hours of scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, about an hour of Google Maps for navigation, a couple of hours of Spotify playing in the background, also some gaming in there, and then the usual mix of messages, emails, and calls. I also have my OnePlus Watch 3 connected at all times throughout the day. The light mode theme is scheduled throughout the day, but then turns dark mode at night, and I keep the screen brightness pretty much near max most of the time. So yeah, I'd say I'm a heavier user than most, so my battery results could be very well different than yours, depending on how often you use your phone. It also comes with 45 watt wire charging too now, which is totally fine by me. I can get a full charge in about an hour and a half, which I think should really be the minimum standard for all phones at this point. And you still get 25 watt wireless charging, reverse wireless, and bypass charging, so it's not the fastest charging out there, but it's more than enough for my needs. As for the looks and feel of the phone, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is basically the same as last year, and that's fine by me. A lot of people, including myself, already like the look of the Pixel 9 design, so why change what isn't broken? The camera bar is such an iconic look, I'm just really glad they kept it, and they just made a few small refinements. I think this year the camera bar is just a tiny bit thicker and larger, but the entire phone is still the same. It's still super comfortable to hold with those slightly rounded edges, flat sides, and the buttons are placed perfectly for my fingers. The phone has a 6.8-inch OLED display that gets even brighter now, up to 3300 nits, and the bezels are a little thinner, which is a nice touch. It's not the thinnest phone you can buy, but I actually prefer a little more heft into my phones because it just means a bigger battery. So the size, weight, and thickness don't really bother me at all. Plus you still get IP68 water resistance onto this thing, which is great. My only real annoyance with the hardware is that the US model doesn't have a SIM card tray anymore. That's pretty annoying for me, and I'm sure anyone else who likes to switch phones often. I get it though, eSIM is the future, so I'm not completely mad. It's kind of like when they got rid of the headphone jack to make room for other things. In this case, Google used some of that extra space to bump up the battery capacity a bit, so at least there's a nice trade-off. Finally, with this phone starting at $1,099 here in the States, would I recommend you picking it up? Honestly, for most people, I think it's a great choice. It's not the absolute fastest phone on the market, and heavy gamers might notice some limitations in extreme scenarios like bigger maps in those games that I was talking about. But for everyday use, multitasking, casual gaming, AI features, and even demanding apps, it feels buttery smooth. The camera system is also excellent for most people, especially with all the new editing and AI tools that make shooting and editing photos feel effortless and super easy. Battery life and charging are also pretty solid, and the design is comfortable and looks really nice. Plus all of its extra exclusive features like Magic Queue, Take a Message, Pixel Snap, Ask Photos, and all the classic Pixel features like Google Assistant voice typing in the keyboard and Now Playing add convenience that you won't get anywhere else. These features alone just really made the Pixel 10 feel like the smartest phone that you can get. In short, if you value a polished user experience, unique Pixel exclusive tools, the quickest software updates, and good real-world performance, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is definitely worth it. It's a phone that feels smart, smooth, and surprisingly fun to use, especially if you appreciate Google software magic. Anyway, tap this video right here to learn about all the Pixel exclusive features out there, or tap this one to watch my new Top Tech series where I show off tech you'd actually want to buy. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Kapow!